By the way, we'll announce at the show, we've got a super big deal next year.
Is it Nick Harvey? Because I'm dying to hear him talk.
It's Doug Pratt.
Welcome to the Two Authors Podcast, an entertaining chat show hosted by best-selling mystery and thriller authors Douglas Pratt and Nicholas Harvey, in lively, humorous and informative conversation with distinguished guests who share their thoughts and experience about forging a successful author career.
Welcome to this week's show, brought to you by our friends at Vellum, the best formatting solution available anywhere.
Anywhere you look.
Yes, absolutely. I've been in Vellum all day long trying to figure something out. And I had a problem today. Messaged their support in like less than an hour. They messaged me back while we were on here, so I haven't responded. But they're fast. Like, you have a problem, they're on it. Big thank you also to all of our Patreon supporters out there. And remember, you can, if you really enjoy our show, or if you just find that we're slightly humorous and you feel like we need to, have a cup of coffee.
Hey, screw it. You can find us really annoying. We don't mind. Just sign up for the Patreon if you would be so kind.
Absolutely. You can support the show, patreon.com/D2 Authors Podcast. And we have a few extras in the free tier, but for the price of a cup of coffee or a latte or something, you can just support us. And you get
it's way less than the price of a latte. Come on. Tariffs, inflation, lattes are like freaking $8 now.
That's true. You could throw $8 our way. We'd be happy because I drink a lot of coffee, but
Currently, it's actually only $3 a month.
You can't get a better deal than that because you get bonus questions from our guests. You get some podcast nuggets, which are full of information that Nick and I share with you. So
actually, the bonus questions have been going pretty good. They're a lot of fun. So we keep our guests on. We coerce them into staying around and put them on video and ask them a bonus question. And some of them have been, they've all been really good, actually. So that's our Patreon subs get to see those.
Some of them, though, is information you can't get anywhere else in the world except for right there. So
exactly.
Well, today we're going to talk with Mr. Joe Solari, who is from Author Nation, which is one of the biggest author and reader conferences out there. It's going to be coming up in November in Vegas. So
Lost Your Wages.
Yeah, lost your wages. Exactly. Let's welcome Joe.
Joe, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I am doing awesome.
Wide open, getting ready for your show.
Oh, yeah. Busy boy. September seems to be the month where everyone kind of wakes up and wants to
realizes it's right around the corner.
Yeah,
summer's over. Everybody's trying to kind of start thinking, oh, now we're ready to get back to whatever.
Send the kids off to school, got vacations done, all that fun stuff, yeah. So then they come in, hey, I didn't read any of your emails that you've been sending, so tell me what I need to do.
Hey, I feel very judged all of a sudden.
I was going to say, Doug is guilty as sin of what you just said.
Hey, you say that. I just got back from BoucherCon, and our good friend Drew Strickler was there, and he had, right before, he asked me a question. He goes, you know anything about the signing? I was like, dude, you're assuming I read an email in that thing. It's like, I know when to show up, and I got the app. I left to that. I know when my panel is. I don't, everything else I'm going to figure out when I get there. So
yeah. And when you say you know when to show up, you mean the month.
Again, I was talking to Dan Wood and Cheryl Bradshaw about that. I was like, I got to make sure I actually put in, because we got NINC coming up next week. And I was like, make sure what dates did I book? Because, you book so many weekends and so many hotels. I'm trying to remember which day I'm supposed to be there, which day I'm not. So yeah, same with So I got Vegas, I had New Orleans, I had this one. So it's been a lot. So, but it's okay. Well, I'm looking forward to it though.
Yeah, there is a lot, and then you've got also Dragon Con for other genres. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening. And I know not this year, but last year I screwed up with my NINC reservations. I had booked for the 24 dates or the 23.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's hard to juggle. So
I actually booked Nink so early that they didn't have me in the Nink group. They had me on the Nink rate, but didn't have me in the group. And it's Tortra, actually, I think, or Mel got hold of me and said, "Hey, you haven't booked your hotel room." I'm like, "Oh, yes, I did." And they're like, they had to go find it. And it's like, "Oh, yeah, you're in, you're good." So anyway, Joe, let's get a little bit of background from you on how you got involved in the old publishing business and where Author Nation came from.
Sure. So long, circuitous route to where we are today. Never anything you could have like planned for. My wife started writing nonfiction books in 2013, 2014. So back in the heyday of the Wild West. I was busy in other businesses. I was in an oil and gas business at the time. She came to me because she needed some help with the publishing stuff. It was some technical stuff with her account. And I noticed that she'd made about $4,000 in that month selling a book about t-shirt and jeans. And I got really interested in publishing then.
She was hoping you wouldn't notice that.
It's like, oh, wow, this is, so it was really kind of helping her out and being, her technical support and kind of figuring out the business stuff. And I got involved with the whole publishing piece really through the old 20 Books group. And I had sold that business. I had decided if she could make that kind of money, I should write a book and make $1 million, right? The 6 people that read my book were in 20 Books. It was about creativity and business because I've always been very entrepreneurial and business focused, always worked for myself or done startup kind of stuff. So to kind of make it an abbreviated story, because there's 1 million podcasts out there with my origin story, it was really at the first 20 Books conference that I observed what was going on in publishing and felt that I had this terrific opportunity to be part of this golden age in content creation. I saw that there was folks that were in a previous world wouldn't have gotten a shot at ever publishing, and that they were creating amazing content that people were buying. Like, it was obvious the kind of numbers they're making. And I wanted to be involved in it, but like, I'm not a storyteller in the sense of like writing fiction. My particular set of skills was around like, how do you make a business work? And I observed that there was a huge weakness in the industry there. There was a lot of people that just didn't have like the basic business understanding. So it was then that I started helping authors that were doing really well kind of set up their businesses, set up payroll, do all the things to be more tax efficient, and went from kind of applying just general good business practices to really diving in and digging into this industry and understanding like how it works. And, now I'm kind of seen as somebody that helps authors with their business. Out of that came this opportunity with Craig, his health condition and him wanting to kind of get back to writing, transition in and relieve him of those contracts and take what I saw as an opportunity and take it to a whole nother place. I loved what 20 Books was. And I think there's a lot of us that our long lifetime friendships were established there. And we met people that became business partners or co-writers. And I wanted to see that continue. But then kind of going back to that original idea of like, what do we need to be maximizing the opportunities in this golden age of content creation? Because I don't think this is the kind of thing that is ever going to stop changing. So that was a lot to throw at you, but that's kind of...
You did. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Now, so as you took over Author Nation, and I've kind of watched it. I was involved with 20 Books, and you're right. It was such a community it's a huge community of people, and it's weird how we connect like that. But as you take over Author Nation, what's kind of like the core mission you're looking at, and how does it differ not only just from the 20 Books was doing, but maybe also some of the other conferences that we're at? And that, as we just talked beforehand, we've been doing a bunch of conferences in this conference season, so it's kind of interesting to see how they all compare.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of great shows, and there's a lot of... Our approach isn't to like be the biggest or the best or like to compete with shows. It's like, how can we build something that we think is going to serve that bigger idea of content creators in this space, particularly around like fiction writing, right? That, there's a lot of other shows for like YouTubers and that kind of stuff, but like this whole idea of how do we make it an event that if you're a writer of fiction, you're going to want to come to. And I think there's a couple things that I observed needed to be dealt with. One is the idea of making it so that there's one place you can come and see all the different ways that the market's changing. I think that in the past, the show tended to be very focused on KU and Amazon. And that's one success path that I think is great for a lot of people, but there's so many others that we're seeing. And like, I truly believe that how you're going to make money off of your content 5 years from now hasn't even been invented, right? So like the fact that you have this IP, how we're going to have it manifest in the real world, it could be print, it could be words. We don't know, but like the fact that you're creating story, that's original, that's going to be a way for you to keep cranking that story machine.
I'm shooting for interpretive dance myself as a next means.
In the pool or out of the pool?
Oh, totally in the pool. I mean, yeah. And topless, me. It's just going to be me.
Yeah.
We could bring in some attractive women from Vegas like we did, but we're just going to have me in there and acting it all out.
We've got a session on that this year. So.
on Doug's interpretive dance. I didn't remember doing that one, but okay.
Monetizing Doug's interpretive dance. Yeah.
He's cutting edge, man. He is cutting edge.
And what he does with that $3, I don't know.
It's amazing. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So like the other part of this thing that I think is where it's not new, but it's kind of different is the idea of how we're trying to bring the reader component and the author learning component together. There's a lot of authors that spend a lot of time at events where they're selling books, they're doing signings or doing that kind of stuff. They're also then going off and getting their well filled with education, going to events. We have this terrific opportunity to bring those two things together. And I think that that's something that I've got a pretty good skill set in around marketing is let us build an audience or a place for you to come where there's a room full of readers and you connect with them. So that's different, right? I think also the change, the probably the bigger thing change wise is we're just destroying this idea of there being like indie versus trad. I think having these internal conflicts is not serving the community. And there's new opportunities we're seeing around the models of those things mixing, right? That we want authors to be exposed to, right?
More and more. I mean, hybrid is the word, right? I mean, so many people are going that direction.
Again, this is like this core thing I saw back in 2017 is like, you guys have what matters, the intellectual property. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to help you monetize that. How do we get them all in the room? And then you pick and choose, right? And you may decide you want to try, you want to hold on to your digital rights, but you want to sell your print rights or license them, right? And you may, then you do that and you find out that sucked. I don't want to do that anymore. And you switch back. Like that's the game that I want to help set up for everybody is that you can get educated about them, try these things out, and you can find the right partner in whether it's a publishing company or another writer or however that we can have there. So we're having those conversations and figuring this stuff out.
What would you say is the ideal attendee for Author Nation? New, mid-listers, pros?
I think that because of the size of our show and the folks that we have there, we kind of touch everything. I would say this, if you haven't published yet, tap into our community. And like, this is just kind of my business person speaking. I would rather see you spend the money that you would go to the show on a good editor and a great cover and getting your first book out. And we have a lot of digital resources that you can get up to speed without being at the show. That being said, we've all been there where we went to that first show and you had your world rocked. Like the whole paradigm shifts. So the sooner you do that, the better, in my view. Now, what we're trying to do is make it so the show works for everybody where, okay, if I'm a mid-lister, I can figure out those pieces we were just talking about. Like, do I need to get into translations? Do I need to think about how I'm going to use audio? But, there's going to be all those different facets that you can explore. And then at the higher level, what we know from the show is a lot of the stuff that happens outside of the sessions at our event is where a lot of money is made, right? So people are getting entertained by Audible or Spotify and they're cutting deals. And, I can tell you from our sponsorship level and the number of people we have there isn't a place where there is more industry reps than at our show. Like, I'll put us up against, right? And they're looking to get your IP. And like, again, that gets back to our, like what you asked about our core mission is like having somebody that's willing to overpay for your intellectual property.
Isn't that nice?
I'm still waiting for that.
And so you kind of mentioned like the whole indie versus trad thing, which is interesting. And I just mentioned I was at BoucherCon, which is mostly trad. I was I was on the independent publishing panel and amazed by the lack of understanding and misinformation that is in the trad world about indie publishing. And so what are the steps you're looking at to kind of meld those two, and what kind of a role or is Author Nation going to have with traditionally published professionals that's who are coming into that and reaching out to them to bring them to the show?
Yeah, so this is a big part of where we've been focusing our energy this year. So we rebranded our reader event to Reader Nation, and this year we've got James Patterson coming to the event.
I was gonna say I don't know that name. Is he like a
He's nobody. He's not. Sometimes if you go to those little libraries in front of your people's houses, you might find a book or two of his.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, that's actually pretty. That's really cool, actually. And if you feel like he'd like to come on our show after, while we're there, by all means, throw our card his way. So
yeah, it's great you landed him, Joe. But if you could set us up with him too, that'd be cool.
It's funny, like
it's all who you know. He doesn't hurt to ask, right?
It never hurts to ask, right? And boy, if a lot of people ask.
I imagine, yes.
By the way, we'll announce at the show, we've got a super big deal next year.
Is it Nick Harvey? Because I'm dying to hear him talk.
It's Doug Pratt.
Oh,
you went real big.
Yeah, we're going super big. And it's all about interpretive dance.
It's all
ticket sales just plummeted.
Like, everybody has to say, first of all, everybody that knows me knows that I would totally get up there and do an interpretive dance. It wouldn't be good, but it would totally be done. So
we make sure that we did it before lunch. So the idea there is bringing in somebody like that, where he's going to be a significant draw of readers that indie authors can poach, right? Like he's going to be like, we purposely made sure he was going to sign for a period of time at our event, and all these keynote people we're bringing in. That's part of the contract, is we want you to be involved in our signing. And the idea is that we start commingling those audiences. Now, what's interesting is in that process and talking with traditional publicists and the people that are managing some of these bigger names, it gets to what you were talking about, Doug, is this just lack of understanding. And it's not that they don't want to understand. It's just their world is different.
I don't know. After talking to a few, I think there's a stigma that but I think that's put on. It's interesting. I think it's put on by the publishers. Like there's this idea that it's not real. It's, somebody referred to indie publishing as vanity publishing while I was there. And then the counter was, I think it's the other way around. Like we make money and y'all don't. So,
well, I mean, we've observed this at NINC, right? There was this transition where it was like, there was a time where like you indie people go sit over at those tables. And then I observed, like my own eyeballs watch this happen. Somebody that was pretty snooty about being traditionally published, walking over to that indie table, hat in hand, asking for help because she got her rights back. Right? Her publisher went broke. So like, what do I do? It's like, oh, and you know what? Everyone was like, here's what you do. Right? So again, this gets to that whole thing of like observing, like seeing what the possibility is. I don't need to know how it's all going to play out, but seeing the possibility. There's going to be a lot of people that make decisions based on their static existing model that are going to get wiped out. And it's not just in publishing, it's in network television. It like it's everywhere. And if you don't think about the fact that somebody like Mr. Beast ends up getting hundreds of millions of dollars from Amazon for streaming content, you're missing the point of how it's about the intellectual property. It's about the audience you build. And those established folks, guess what? They're not really good at recreating that. Disney may be the single biggest distributor, disseminator of content, but they haven't made anything original since Walt Disney died. They've acquired other people's content and worked it like a rented mule, but right, whether it's Pixar or
Marvel, Star Wars, yeah.
Marvel, right? But the origination of those ideas wasn't something that they've done. So I think that as an indie, if you're thinking like, wow, all that, all those times that I was told that, if I just worked to my potential, I could really do something. When I was daydreaming in class.
Okay, Mom.
Right. That's a recurring theme in fiction authors, right? It's like, oh, well, guess what? All that daydreaming you were doing and all that time you were staring out the window in class, now you can turn that into cold hard cash if you start thinking about how you do some of the things we're talking about at Author Nation. And for me, to be able to facilitate that and build a system, like to have it where, every year we're going to have a room full of readers that are looking for people that tell good stories. They don't care whether you're indie or whether you're Simon & Schuster.
And readers, for the most part, aren't going to care. Like, that's the other thing. We talked the whole AI thing. I don't think readers always care about whether you've got AI or whether you're writing. As long as you're hitting the tropes they want. If you're using whatever you're using, readers want books. And that's what we see. So.
Yeah. And I know that, there's a lot of turmoil and people worrying about things like AI and being able to be found and discovered. And these are all real things. But if you just focus in on, can I get my intellectual property to an audience? Right? You got to have those two pieces. In my view, and again, this gets to like how we're thinking at Author Nation is there's these two really important assets, your audience and your intellectual property. How they connect, like in a perfect world, if you could just think of the story and it mind melded to everyone that wanted that story and they gave you exactly the most amount of money they're willing to give you, that's the perfect model.
That would be nice. Yes. Yeah.
Right. We'll get there. Right. But in the interim, what's the model? Well, guess what? There's a lot of people that will never read a book, but now you can get it into audio. Right. And just in the time I've been in this industry, I've watched some authors' business triple while their print business was growing. But where it tripled was when I got into audio and I got into this audience that they haven't read a book since 8th grade. But they love my stories and they'll listen to them in their car and they'll listen to them when they travel. And I make all kinds of money in audio, right? That's the cool stuff. That's the stuff that I want to make sure that we're always exposing people to and figuring out like what's next. You don't have to do it all, but you need to know what's important for building, making sure that you get that IP into the hands of the audience that wants it.
So a couple of practical questions about the conventions. So what do you see as mistakes that authors typically make at a conference like yours?
Other than drinking too much, because that's the mistake I make every time.
Yeah. There's this bald guy that'll be at the bar and
he accepts drinks from anybody, by the way. It's weird.
Yeah. And the next thing you wake up and he's sitting in the corner of the room with a smile on his face. I don't know. So I think the biggest thing is coming there and thinking you're going to like do it all. I think the best thing you can do at you're coming to an event like ours is have thought through, this is what I need to get to the next level, right? So like if you haven't published, like what do you need to do to get published? If you're published and you're not profitable, what do I need to do to get my business where it starts to break even? Not make $1 million, just like you need to get it to where the economics are working and it's starting to pay for itself. Or if I have success and I am making money, like what do I want my business to be? That may be the hardest thing, right? Because so often you come to the show and you hear about the next shiny and you're going to chase that. And it's like, I never wanted that. So I think if you come with that and like knowing there's going to be a lot of things that will tease you away from that, you're like, no. I'm not going to go to that session, even though people are like, oh, you got to go see this guy. He's really great with Amazon ads. That's not where you're supposed to be. Don't be there. So I think that's the biggest mistake.
I think the one tricky part of that is basically it's filtering, right? You're saying you've got to filter this stuff and focus on the areas that you're going to get the best bang from. And as new authors, for mid-listers and pros, that's a little easier to do because you go there with an intention, right? You kind of, you know what you want to focus on. But for those just starting out, filtering that and knowing what to attend and what to look at, that's a little trickier, don't you think?
It is. It is. And especially with, there's a lot of people that, we know about 20% of our audience is going to be folks that this is like their very first show, and they either have just published or they're going to be publishing soon. And unfortunately, it's going to be a fire hose and their world is going to get rocked.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. Like suddenly drinking. And I think the other thing is you got to take a look at what you're capable. Like sometimes I've done it before. I know Nick's done it. We've all done it where you go to one and you're like, oh man, it was probably 3 years ago. Started hearing about translations and I wasn't ready to, I started jumping on them and it gets overwhelming. And you got to make sure that one, your words are still getting down and you're getting stuff published that you need to, but you don't need to jump from, I got my first book out and I'm now going to try to do my audio in German and send it all the way over there when you're not ready to cover it here in the United States just yet, or wherever you happen to be. So
absolutely. And I also think that there's an interesting thing that I think about, Nick, in this, and that is, how well do you know your own business to ask the right questions at a show like that? Because Doug, you brought up a perfect example of like, you go to a thing like this, whether we're here, I remember, it happened at NAINC 2, translations, it's the new hot thing. And I made and like, you hear this person. And then because of my other experience with authors and working on so many authors' businesses, it was something I observed is like, oh, translations, let's just talk about specifically within romance, didn't work out the same way for everybody, right? Like a particular country may have done really well with very steamy romance, but if I came at it and I wasn't that kind of writer, it fell flat. And if I came at it real hard with a lot of money, I may have found myself in a position where I tied up a lot of cash. And I know the conversations I had were like, they were like, well, I'll make the money back. It's like, yeah, you will, but when?
How long? Is it a 7-year return or is it a 1-year return?
Right. And it's like, here's some people that had a 6-week return. They should lay into that. Like maybe even look to sell your audio rights to get the cash to go do more translations, right? Like that's a good application of capital in a business where you're trying to get that return. But if you're spending a lot of money on ads and tying up a lot of cash that way, and then dumping a bunch of cash into translations, you could find yourself where you're broke. Like, how did that happen? It's like, well, you spent more money than you had. Will you get it back? Yeah, but in 2028, when you may not make it because you ran out of money in 2022.
You may be out of, that's the whole thing. I think that it's about treating it like a business too. And I think if you're trying to make this and you're coming to Author Nation to learn the business, you need to treat your business like a business. So.
Yeah. And I think that's something where we're fundamentally different than a lot of shows is most of the folks there, and certainly myself, we're going to be probably more objective and business minded about this, where it's like, it's not your baby, it's a product.
Yeah, I think like a new reader who's just got one book out, it's great to go to a conference like this and you come away with that whole filtering thing that you got to do. And you're going to come away with a list of all these shiny things that you want to do. And the most important thing for 99.9% of the people with one book out is to go home and write the second book. And all those things you bring back with you are things to think about for the future, right?
So again, coming to the show is awesome. You're going to have a lot of fun. But like, there's so many things within what we're doing around the community that are designed for you to have success. So we're doing this whole thing with Kickstarter. I don't know how much you've heard about this, but Oriana Leckert, who's the head of publishing at Kickstarter, she's been running coaching calls in our community for the last 4 months. And we basically put a cohort of authors together. There's 30 of them. And we've been supporting each other on their Kickstarters and teaching people how to do the Kickstarters, as well as thinking about how you can use a live event as a tier in your Kickstarter with like special edition stuff. I think there's so far 3 authors that their debut book they launched on Kickstarter. And this whole thing came up in one of the calls where it's like, she's like, your goal is $500. It's like, that doesn't pay for everything you need to do to get published. You should set it higher. And out of this conversation came like, well, I know I'm going to spend $1,500 on my book to get it published, but I've never published before and I don't want my Kickstarter to fail. So I'm in for $1,500. If I get $500, that means I've got some money towards this thing. But the twist in the whole tale is, on average, they're making $1,800 per Kickstarter. So for us to have a system where we're helping a debut author come out cash flow positive, how many shows are doing that?
Probably not many that I know of. So
that's pretty cool. I mean, Kickstarters are definitely hot. We chatting with Joe Penn about that recently and Sarah Rosette, and it's a really interesting path to, as you said, maximize your IP, right?
Yeah, well, it does both, because on the other side, you're getting an audience, right? You're walking away with a list, and even if it's 30 people.
And then your second book, your sophomore book comes out, you have that 30 names to call on. And it's just like having a newsletter. It's that, but you're developing different places to work and stuff. Yeah. So Joe, we could probably talk about this for hours, but we've already kept you pretty long. So
I got full on FOMO now because I can't make it.
I know. Yeah. No, you're going to be sad. We're going to be hanging out at the bar,
It's going to be good. I mean, I know what's going to happen. I also know what we're going to be announcing. I'll give you a perfect example, not to rub it in your nose more.
Interpretive dance was enough. That was enough.
Interpretive dance, right? On the main stage with James Patterson and Doug together, embracing.
Well, breaking news right here, guys. So,
yeah. If James listens to this podcast, he's going to be calling Joe up like, what the way you got me doing?
Well, how did that contract get canceled? So we had kind of on the same Kickstarter thing. There's a guy that comes to the show named Robert Napton. I don't know if you met Robert. So he's the head of comics, graphic novels at Legendary. So Godzilla, all that stuff, right? He spoke last year. He's going to speak this year. He's going to run a session on how to do adaptations to graphic novels. Very cool, right? Anybody who attends that session will have the opportunity. You have to attend this session to do this. We'll have the opportunity to participate a graphic novel anthology that we're going to do on Kickstarter. So we'll fund the work to hit our deadline. Like, this is a really tight schedule to get it where we can physically deliver it in November 26. So we're going to have to, get those stories, get them adapted, and get the artwork going even before the Kickstarter opens up. So we're funding that whole project, but we have this guy who's got this amazing set of skills that's going to help us understand how to do this. And his secret evil plan is he's trying to teach his company that there's these indies out there that have good stories to tell, right? His boss is saying, go get me more Godzilla. Go get me, go sign, whatever movie's coming out this week. He's like, I would love for us to be able to show, right? And like the best way to show these guys is to make a lot of money at it. And then they're like, oh, I think that's now my best new idea. So yeah, those are the kind of things we'll be kind of rolling out at the show.
That's really kind of neat. Yeah.
And that we've got all these things kind of
still available. So you can still get out there and book Author Nation. You're not sold out yet, right?
We're not sold out yet.
There's lots of room in Vegas. Vegas is a big place. We could squeeze you somewhere.
Yeah, we are starting to bump into our room block. I think it was just Friday. We said, hey, the one night we're selling it, because that's the other thing is we opened up the room block to readers, and we've got over 100 VIP registrations for readers. And then we've got like 3,000 free registrations. So like, we'll know closer to the date how many are actually going to show up, but like we're going to have a significantly larger reader group at the event, the reader event, than we've ever had before. And that's all part of this idea of like, what if Nink and Dragon Con had a baby?
That would be cool. Hey, if you sell out, I bet you could find another hotel on the Strip. There's not just one. So
they have hotels there.
Yeah, there's a hotel or two out there.
Well, thank you so much, Joe. This has been, maybe like I said, we could talk to you all day long, but you can we got links to Author Nation in our show notes, as well as our author and show links. And if you can, support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/D2 Authors Podcast. Your kindness helps cover the costs bringing this show to you. And a big thanks once again to our friends at Vellum for their support. And we'll be back next week with a new episode.
So until next time, be cool to each other.
Fair winds and following seas.
You've been listening to the Two Authors Podcast with Nicholas Harvey and Douglas Pratt. Subscribe on your favorite platform for new shows coming every week.